Bring Paris to your home. Croissants are a dreamy Parisian treat. Let's see how close we can get to the real deal. Hi, today we're going to make croissants from scratch. It's a lengthy process for sure, but each step is very simple. You just need a few key techniques and the best ingredients you can find, and you'll have a Parisian marvel. So this recipe calls for 165 grams of warm water and 165 grams of warm milk. I've mixed them together, add them to the bowl. Then you want to add 8 grams of yeast, 50 grams of white sugar, and you mix that up. Then we're going to add 500 grams of bread flour. Now, bread flour is the same as double O flour. You might see it as pizza flour. It's all the same. The double O is just finer, but you need the higher protein content of bread flour so that it will hold the shape of the croissant. So you have that. Now you want to put 10 grams of salt. And you're going to let that go for 2 to 3 minutes on medium, and then you're going to raise it to high for 7 minutes. There you go. All right, so that has gone for 10 minutes total, 3 minutes at low, and then 7 minutes at high. And now we have a really nice, supple, smooth dough. So we can easily form it into a nice little ball. It's not sticky. It's a little tacky, but it's not sticky. It can easily be rolled out into most any shape. I'm going to just smash it out into a semi-rectangle, and that way it'll be easier to roll out because it already sort of has the shape you want it to go into. So yeah, it's fighting me. So it needs to rest. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator overnight. Now this croissant recipe is a 2-day situation. So you could do to this point, I'm going to get up early in the morning and do the rest of it. I will film that, of course, and that way I can bake it and have them ready for brunch. Now we're going to create the butter block. This will be encased in the dough that will make all the flaky layers that you love about croissants. It's also how you make puff pastry. It's a type of pastry work called viennoiserie, where you're making layers of butter and dough. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 250 grams of butter. There we go. And we're going to put it into a large Ziploc bag. I used to make it on parchment paper, as most of the tutorials show you to do. But I found that this is much cleaner and easier to do, and it's the same size. So we're going to leave it open slightly to let the air out. You're going to bang it. You're going to start rolling. You're going to make sure you get into the corners. You want this all one thickness, so it's got to be very uniform. Going to roll until you start hitting all 4 of the corners. And voila. The perfect butter block. All right, we're back from our second refrigeration. You need to unwrap it and re-roll it to 15 by 15 if necessary, if the dough is drawn up. You want to place the butter block. Now, I've done a little work ahead of time. My butter block was in the Ziploc. I cut the sides so it's easier to get out of the container. Once you have the butter block on, and you want to keep it, bring it in straight out of the refrigerator. You don't want it to be the slightest bit soft or melty, because this will make it an impossible project. There we go. All right, so now you're going to take the bottom, bring it up halfway, the top. You're You're going to stretch these to meet. You don't want to overlap, but you want them to meet. And you're going to pinch the seams really, really well. Pinch the side seams really well. You don't want any of the butter to ooze out. You want it to absorb into the bread so that the layers will become separate and steamy and soft and delicious. Okay, now that we've done that, you want to turn it. You can do this way to unstick it from the counter. Okay, you're going to roll with the seam. I'm going to do this a little bit because the butter's very cold, and if you just roll it without beating it a little bit, it's just going to crack all over the place. So on this one, you just want to keep it the same width, but roll it to about almost double what it was. In there. Each time you do this, it will lengthen a little. Okay. All right, so now we're going to fold it. I'm going to take my original pan. I'm going to fold this into thirds, like so. You always want to bring that over. Whenever you fold, you want to bring it over and tuck it underneath so it seals everything inside. And now we're going to let it rest 20 minutes in the freezer this time. We'll be back. And we're back. It's been in the freezer for 20 minutes. Now what we're going to do is called a turn, where you have the folded section to the sides. We've already done one turn. Remember when we pinched the folds together and then we turned it and we rolled it out lengthwise with the fold? Now this is our second turn. And we're going to roll this second turn from this to 24 inches. It's not easy. It's been in the freezer, it's cold, it's been rolled a lot. Hopefully it starts relaxing. We're back. So we rolled this out all the way. My husband had to help me, so just beware, you have to be strong and have some endurance to roll this whole thing out from frozen dough. So now we're at 24 inches. What we're going to do now, again, is to fold it into thirds, like so. And then you're going to fold this edge under, just like we did last time. Fold it under, pinch, pinch, pinch. So the point of rolling this way and folding and re-rolling and folding and re-rolling is we're creating layers upon layers upon layers. Every piece of butter is encased in 2 pieces of dough. So when the heat hits this in the oven, the butter will create steam, which will puff up the layers, and that's how you get all the little layers and the little holes and the yummy nooks and crannies that you find in a croissant. So I'm going to put it back on the pan, and guess what? It's going back in the freezer for 20 more minutes. Okay, so we're back now for our final turn of the dough. We've been freezing it for 20 minutes again, and we have it like this. So what we're going to do is, now we've got the folds on the outside again, and we're going to roll that way. So we want it eventually to be 12 inches wide, 25 inches long. So we're going to work on this for a little bit. Cold frozen dough with cold frozen butter is not an easy thing to roll out. You want to make sure that you're not just pressing the life out of it. You want to bang this a little bit. It's going to start warming up. You don't want it to get too warm. If it gets floppy, like right now we're able to do that. If it gets too floppy, put it back in the freezer so the butter will start melting. So just gently, you do want to apply pressure, but not so much that you're going to crack the pastry or ruin the butter.
I bet you would enjoy hearing some of this.
So this is going to make 6. So I'm cutting it 6 inches. What I'm going to do is cut it like that, and then corner to corner. And that makes two perfect croissant triangles. They're supposed to be right angles. There. So now we've got all the triangles out. So we're going to take, let's take a pretty one. It's getting just slightly too warm. So what you want to do is you want to pull to make it long, and you pull the corners. So when you're done, you kind of want it to resemble like a witch's hat. Like you want to pull it into shape. And the first four that I'm making plain croissants. The rest of them, I'm making it a ham and cheese croissant. And you can do it with the exact same dough, the exact same way. You just roll up a little ham and cheese package in the middle of it. My family loves ham and cheese croissants. They're always trying to find the best ones. And I hope these are the ones. So I've got ham and cheese. I've taken a piece of ham and just rolled some cheese up inside of it like a little toddler snack. Put that there. I'm going to roll that nice like a little package, and then it's like a croissant burrito. Do one more plain. Pull the edges. Make it nice and long like that. And then you want to just roll and land on this point. Give it a little tap to make the point stick. And then we'll make another ham and cheese. So you pull, lengthen, pull the edges, take your ham and cheese bundle, fold that over, and then start rolling. And then press. Once I'm done making all of them, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the, I'm going to leave it out on the counter and let it raise for about 2 to 3 hours. They should be puffed and perfect in 2 to 3 hours. And then put it back in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes after they raise. And we'll go over all that when we get to that point. But for right now, put them in a warmish spot, not too warm because you don't want the butter to start melting and pooling. That's one of the worst things that can happen to a croissant. You're going to wind up with a very weird final product. So make sure it's somewhere warm-ish, but not, I wouldn't put it in the stove even under proofing. So we'll come back in 2 to 3 hours and see what they look like. Okay, so the croissants have risen for 2.5 hours. They're much puffier than they were and ready to go into the oven. So what you're going to do is I have a mixture here of egg and milk, and I'm going to brush the flat edges. You don't want to brush the area here where you can see all the layers because the egg wash will glue those together and it won't rise properly. So we're going to use this just on the flat areas. The milk is going to make it get a very beautiful burnished brown color. All right, so these have all been egg washed, and you're going to put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 7 minutes, and then at 350 degrees for 13 minutes. So total of 20 minutes cooking. You want that initial hot blast in the oven to give it that crispy, shattering exterior. All right, so we'll come back when they're done. All right, let's see what we've got. There's our croissant. And our ham and cheese croissant look different, but they're full of ham and cheese. So if we look at the croissant here, you can see all the different layers have puffed up and separated out. So when you open it up, It's going to have a lot of little tiny nooks and crannies and holes and lots of good things. So hopefully you try this recipe. I hope you enjoyed it.